impacted by the service. If you look at our formula for member towns, we're proposing that $50,000 be divided into two different sources, if you will. Most of it would be paid by the member towns based on population rates, and the balance would be paid by the contributing towns outside the service. So as you can see from this slide, Bridgeton represents 10% of the Lakes region population. They would pay 10% of that $45,000 or just over $4,000, for example. Windham, with most of the population in the Lakes region, would pay more because there are more people in Windham. So they would pay 30% of that total. For the contributing towns, we're simply lowering the cost to $5,000 between 4 contributing towns. And so far I've presented to New Gloucester and to Standish. I've not been yet to Sebago and to Denmark. And the towns who are from the member towns, we've made presentations in Bridgeton, in Gray, in Falmouth, Harrison, Naples, and Windham, and Raymond. The routes we've discussed would be from Route 302 to Portland and possibly Route 115. And here's some examples of the types of buses we'd be looking at. These are coach-style bus types. The most likely companies in Maine who would be competing for this service would be VIP Tour and Charter Bus Services, Sear Bus Service, or Custom Coach and Limousine, to give you an idea of some of the bus companies in Maine who would be competing for this service. So that's my presentation I've been giving to towns for the past 6 months. The reception has been somewhat mixed. Some towns are embracing this service and putting it on the warrant for town meeting. Other towns are saying we're going to think about it for a while. And some towns have said so far we're not considering putting this in the budget. But there's time left to change their minds.
Right.
And we're hoping that this presentation today will give you some information about the service so you can ask questions. And we thought this would be an opportunity to answer some questions as well today.
Thank you, David. What connections are going to be available once the bus gets to Portland?
Well, Greater Portland is served by a variety of bus services. The Metro serves Portland, the Maine Mall, and Westbrook and Falmouth. The South Portland Bus Service, which also comes into Portland, serves South Portland and the Maine Mall. And then the Biddeford-Saco shuttle bus and Zoom services serve Biddeford, Saco, and Old Orchard Beach. So all those bus services come to Portland, where we're planning to have this bus go to. So there's many options for people to travel once they reach Portland.
Do we know where in Portland that the bus will?
We're proposing to operate the bus into Monument Square, which is the downtown transportation center for the Metro, the South Portland Bus Service, and the Biddeford-Saco service. They all come in and out of that facility. And we think there might be enough interest from Lakes Region patrons to serve the Maine Mall as well. So we would envision that the bus would also go to the Maine Mall before returning to the Lakes Region.
Now, will the bus be wheelchair accessible?
Yes.
Will there be bike racks or space for bikes on the bus?
That's a good question. All the Metro buses and South Portland buses are fitted with bike racks. The type of bus that we've anticipated for this service does not currently have bike racks, but if there's enough interest, we would certainly accommodate people who want to bring bikes with them. Depending on the type of bus we use, we'd have to assess that once we get started.
There's also quite a bit of storage underneath those coaches.
Yes,
so
again, depending on the type of bus.
Right.
In Acadia National Park, for example, with the Island Explorer, bikes became predominantly very popular. And so in addition to putting bike racks on those buses, they actually brought some of the bikes into the buses as well. So there's a demand for people needing bikes, certainly in that destination, and we may find the same thing here.
So the contribution, the municipal contribution is pretty much less than $1 per resident on average. Is that accurate? We would be asking the towns to contribute monthly. There wouldn't have to be a lump sum, so you could take that amount and run it out over
a monthly installment.
Oh.
But yes, there's 50,000 people roughly in the Lakes region.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about $50,000. So it's about $1 per capita, if you will,
Okay.
is one way to look at this
Sure.
for the year. Of course, that 50,000 expands in the summertime
Right.
by more than double. So there's a seasonality to this as well. We wanted to make this service year-round and make it possible for people to get to work. But we may find in the summertime that there's a whole new demand for services around the lake with all the camps that are in operation. and so
Exactly.
forth.
So it's possible that in the future, if there was a need, that the bus might stop at a camp to pick up campers. Is that something?
That is not part of what we are starting with. But
Right,
we may
right.
find that transportation needs in the Lakes region are quite different when we get started. Many towns have asked, well, who's going to ride this bus, and how do you know who's going to ride it? And we really can do surveys forever, but at some point we have to start, and at some point we have to try it.
Right.
And that's sort of where we are now. We've studied this for a while. The message I got from Lakes Region town managers was, let's be done with the studying part and let's try the implementation. So we're in the implementation phase, and implementation usually requires funding.
Right.
It requires a political process because there's a lot of competition for these funds that towns are contributing to other important needs every year. And there are also personalities involved with any operation when you get started, and that's where implementation gets tricky. So we're not anticipating this will be an easy process, but we think given our environment where we are today, with fuel prices, with the kinds of needs that people have in the Lakes region for transportation services, that it's timely to be looking at transit as an option for an area that has been without transit for years.
Right.
I think that one of the points that I would make is that we agree that there are two factors that are sure to change. We've got a good idea going in with what the service schedule will be like, as well as what the stops